Okay, joining me on today's show, it is a pleasure to have, accepted my invitation, we got Janelle Hoyland Dodd joining me. Hello, Janelle, how are we doing today?
Hey, I'm great. I'm excited to be doing this with you and just sharing some fun stories, some crazy interesting stories. But yes,
Brilliant. Thanks for taking time out to speak to me today. Where are you in the world right now?
I am in South Texas, right on the coast. So
Cool,
in between the lake and the ocean.
that's very cool. And part of my new segment on the show is inviting people on to tell their life experiences, whether it's a heartwarming story, a true story, real life. What would you like to talk about on today's show?
Well, first off, so when I was younger, my father and my mother were married for just about 2 years, and my father decided to take my sister and we lived without my mom's permission. So essentially, at the time, it was considered kidnapping. But um, we lived in a van on the side of the road, and we were returned unharmed, uh, no problems. But 4 years later, with names changed and craziness as far as that goes. Um, and then right about 12, he got married again and decided to take those kids and came back and tried to take us again, which at this point I'm 12, we're not going that way. But anyway, so long story about that part of it. Later on in life, I felt like it was time to, go make amends with him and go, forgive him and work through that. And he was still arrogant as hell. He was in and out of the prison system, that kind of thing. But 2 years to the day that I forgave him, he pulled in front of a bus and had a major collision.
Okay,
And he went into a coma. He had two brain injuries. And the doctor said, he's not going to make it. And I said, sure, that's probable. Makes sense. And I began to pray over him, and 2 weeks later, he pulled his tubes out and was saying that because I forgave him that day, 2 weeks prior, that he crossed over and was given a second chance to make amends and make everything right in this life. And to which he was begging for forgiveness and, just very, in my feeling of him, two different people, one before the accident and one after the accident. It's kind of interesting how truth hits you very hard when you see your life review, right? And to this day, he texts me every day and twice a day, and we have a great relationship now. But if I hadn't been open to it, the forgiveness part of it and that it wouldn't have happened that
Hmm.
way.
So do you feel like forgiveness, it's forgiving someone is a good deed to do?
Yeah, but forgiveness versus tolerance are two different things, right? Forgiveness is really for your personal relief and acceptance of the situation. Tolerating poor behavior is a totally different thing. There was no tolerance on my side for, any kind of dysfunction or anything like that. So we didn't have a relationship for a better part of 30 years.
Sure. And how is life treating you at the moment?
It's great. I have a son who shortly after that I became pregnant with. So I feel like that was kind of, God or whatever you believe in, universe's way of correcting generational trauma within the family on the male side of things, which I find intriguing and interesting, from that perspective. Um, and I'm also a person that, I started like my first company at 19. No one else had started a company and went through that journey. Um, and I'm, I would say a rebel in a lot of ways and a forging my own path. Definitely so.
And then life experiences, do you feel that they make you a stronger person?
Agree. Yes. I'm the type of person when someone tells me I can't do something, it almost like, mm, it's like a little dig, I'm like, well, why? I'm gonna do it. If it feels right to me, I'm gonna do it. But I believe that those push through moments do make you stronger, and more resilient. And I feel like the things that happen, because bad things happen to everyone, I think that those also, you know, cause us to become more aware and more introspective.
And positivity as well. How how uh, how indispensable or important is it to embrace positivity in this world?
I think it's, I think it's honestly one of the things that connects us together and needs to happen now with so much diversity all over the world. It, it's it's just being positive about the circumstances. You may be in awful circumstances. I know I've been there several times, but it's the ability to see and someone who may be struggling more than you, or maybe feeling depressed or what have you, and the connection together being positive and reinforcing. We're never meant to be alone, but we're meant to always reflect on our situations, and the ability to push through because we're creators.
I know where life is very sure that's a fact. What advice could you give to someone who finds it hard to forgive in any scenario said?
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, that forgiving my father for that, and watching the trauma that he inflicted on everyone in his life, being in and out of prison and all kinds of, I mean, really, you know, that part of it was just horrible. And um, I faced a lot of adversity when I forgave him because I was very public about it, and public about, just to my family, not everyone, But forgiveness is largely about, can you see the parts of yourself in that person?
Agreed. And do you do like public speaking as well? Like I know
Yeah.
that's plays a part in your career as well.
Yes, yes. I've been, so two parts of myself. I'm really good with business and that, and also very intuitive. And I've also done some stand-up comedy. So there's a little bit of a mixture of all things in me. And so, yeah, for 30 years, I've primarily done a multitude of those three combinations of things.
Have you wrote a book, or would you write a book, or is there a book out there?
Yes. So I actually, it's an interesting story I shared with Career Day this week to this elementary kids. I was published in what we call fifth grade, which is elementary school. My first book was poems. The second book, Spiritual Happy Hour, which is a double shot of bad, you can get on Amazon. And I'm currently right now working on a book of translations or transcriptions right now.
And writing books, do you find it? I think the word is remedial, which means calming,
Mhm.
therapeutic.
Yes, I do actually. I think that journaling in itself is a very reflective and eye-opening experience, but also there is this thing that happens when you put pen to paper. It unlocks something within your brain, an awareness that you may not have prior.
That's amazing. And do you have a YouTube channel where people can just find out a little bit more about you?
Yes, it's Dr. Janelle Hoyland, and I think it's like an 11 at the end. Yeah.
Cool. We'll check you out and make sure we can get a few, well, more than a few people subscribe to your channel. Anything
Yeah.
else you may just like to say to add to the interview?
Yeah, I think, like I was saying, at this time, it is more important for people like you and I, or, other people to come together and find common ground and find resonance with each other, and find that way that we can uplift and create some positive influence in our world.
In this world as well, do you think there's more strife or has it always been that way?
I think it ebbs and flows. I really
Mhm.
do. I think it converges and expands. It depends on what's going on. Yeah.
And the universe is a big place. Does cosmic forces and
Yes.
karma play a big part in your life?
Yes, absolutely. Because I was very connected from a young age, past lives and things like that were very common for me to experience, as well as different global understandings. I have whole entire journals of premonitions around worldly events 10 years prior that I have just kept waiting for the right moment to publish them, but they're dated and time stamped and all of that. So
Mm.
yeah, definitely.
I wanted to ask as well, having bad experiences can affect, one's mentality, and like sleeping at night as well. What advice could you give to people who like insomnia or, find it hard to switch off, especially these days?
Yeah, exactly. So what I like, even for myself, I can ruminate over thoughts, and overthink and get to that place. And I've found, because I've went through PTSD too, I've found that there's different ways that you can incorporate, like there's a technique for like looking up when you're in that ruminating thought pattern while you're sleeping and kind of bending your neck back that helps. Also, like writing down the thoughts prior to bed and kind of putting it aside, and also creating positive intentions before you go to bed are some of the things that I do to help combat that.
That's some good advice there. Well, Janelle Hoyland Dodd, it's been a pleasure having you on my show. Thanks for being open with your life experiences. I know it's not easy, having to, talk about, past traumas, but going through things sometimes, um, going through things, gets us in a better place in the end sometimes.
Yeah, it definitely does, I would say.
Well, thanks for joining me on my podcast. My name's Danny, son here in the UK. Sending all our blessings over there to South Texas.
Yeah,
Brilliant. Well, have a great day, and we wish you well. All right, Janelle.
bye. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.